It seems like a lot of things in life have a before and an after. You know, where before something, you can't really imagine it, and after, you can't imagine life without it. Like a shortcut nobody knows about, or a really great vacuum. Anyway, I've been doing this a long time, always hunting for new ways to tell a story. And the day I was gifted a drone changed everything. Before that, it was just me on the ground, a camera, and a lot of walking and zooming. But after that, Casaluna wasn't just a piece of land anymore. It felt like the land itself came alive and revealed herself, raw and unpredictable. And it wasn't just about showing you the build anymore either. It was about sharing with you the feeling of being up here with me on the ridge and seeing the place in all its glory. Wild, epic, and breathtaking from every angle. But flying a drone here isn't always as smooth as it looks. Casaluna is steep, rocky, and exposed with often constant wind. One minute it's calm and clear, and the next it's gusting hard enough to knock the drone right out of the sky. But that's just the beginning. The real terror is when your remote starts beeping because your drone's way out there. The transmission drops and your heart sinks. Or when the battery's low in the middle of the sixth take of the greatest shot ever imagined, way out over a lake, you're stuck there, holding your breath, hoping that hard-earned footage doesn't just vanish into thin air. One thing's for sure, getting those epic shots means pushing the limits, and sometimes those limits push back. Today I'm taking you behind the scenes to show you what it really takes to capture Casaluna from the sky. The crashes, the lessons learned, and some epic failures. But before we dive into the crash stories, let me show you what the drone is capturing and the work that goes into making the footage look the way it does. Drone footage usually looks pretty decent straight out of the camera, but to me it still feels unfinished. It's a bit washed out, not super crisp, and it doesn't really feel like Casaluna yet. So every drone shot goes through a process. First, I add some sharpening to bring out the detail that's already there. Then I apply a kind of color filter that shifts the whole mood. It brings warmth into the highlights, cools down the shadows, and helps unify the colors from shot to shot. Next, I adjust the color in more detail, pushing golden tones into the grass, deepening the blues in the sky, and pulling shadows to create contrast between elements that might otherwise blend together. Then I crop the top and bottom of the image. It's called letterboxing, and it creates a wide cinematic feel, pulls your attention to the middle of the frame where the story's happening, and cuts out distractions on the top and bottom. And finally, I add a subtle vignette. Just a darkening of the corners ever so slightly to hold your focus. And after all that, this is what it looks like. You can see the sharpness. The shadows have more depth. The colors are balanced but intentional. But most importantly, the mood has shifted. This is Casaluna the way I see it, the way I want you to feel it. And now you know what I start with and what I turn it into. Every little detail matters. But ironically, everything I just showed you can only happen after the footage comes home. Before that could ever happen, I had to develop some flying skill first, because I definitely didn't start this way. So let's go. During the well development phase, when we had to let the well run full blast for a few hours to clear out all the debris, I had what I thought was a pretty brilliant idea. The skid steer was still parked over the wellhead, holding the casing in place with its bucket, and the water was just gushing out through the temporary discharge pipe like a geyser. And as I was flying over the rig to get some top-down shots, I thought to myself, what if I could fly the drone under that bucket arm, avoid the spray, and tuck the drone way back in there by the gravel chute from the truck, rotate it around toward that spectacular valley view, and get a shot of the water just blasting away from the camera in the foreground. Ah, what the heck, let's give it a shot. So I started maneuvering, trying to find the right approach angle, to put the drone in that little tiny pocket between the yellow hose and the back of the gravel truck. I mean, forget about the regular wind. The wind from this spray pipe was enough to throw the drone off too. But I kept pushing in, closer and closer, desperately hanging on by my fingernails. Whew, okay, I think I got it. Okay, out we go. But then I started thinking, I think I could probably do that better. Yeah, let's try. I could probably do it a little bit better. Yeah, surely I can do it, but crap. As usual, I hadn't factored in the wind. But I picked it up and saw she was still recording. I didn't even bother turning it off. I just dusted her off, relaunched, and kept going. That little bugger's tougher than she looks. You'll see. I've always thought a low, tight pass between these Adirondack chairs would look awesome. So, I lined it up. And I punched the stick forward. Immediately chickened out. Pulled it back. Ran the shot again, but chickened out again and went high over the chairs for safety. The shot looked fine, but my ego did not. Way out here, I got clever. How about I thread the gap in reverse? So, full reverse throttle, big grin, chairs unharmed, pride demolished. In the emotional closing days of well drilling, I wanted to get some shots of the scars on the land. After this lovely image, I started dropping down to line up a lazy orbiting shot around the wellhead. Once I got it lined up, I started the spin. It all looked good to me, but inexplicably, all of a sudden, it was so weird. On the monitor, the drone had cartwheeled out of frame, but I had no idea what it hit. And this is the only thing I could see on the screen. I sprinted over, but nothing on the ground. I could hear it beeping, but from where? I was circling like an idiot. Sound was bouncing off of everything. And then I looked up. There it was, jammed sideways between pipes on the shaker unit, hanging over a 500-gallon bentonite sludge tank like a stuck insect and beeping like a microwave. Well, crashed the drone, and it almost went in the sludge. No way! That is where it landed. I can't believe it survived that. Luckily, this is one of those 249-gram drones that doesn't weigh anything and can't do any damage of any kind, even to flying airplanes. I don't know about you guys, but certain visuals from movies just lodge themselves in my brain. For me, one of those is a camera scraping a foot or two above the ground with the surface just flying by at the bottom of the frame. It looks so cool. Way back in episode 6, where Architod and I were staking out the footprint of the house to get a good sense of what its scale was, I had the drone parked about a football field over what will eventually be the vineyard. And as usual, I had an idea. Get it back out over the valley and race that thing back toward the ridge. Low and flat out. It took me a minute to get the drone moved and facing back toward the mountain, but I got it lined up. You have to remember this was early in my flying practice, so I didn't really have the best sense of things. When it was ready to go, I shoved the stick forward to start the shot. Halfway there though, the drone looked too high for what I wanted, so I feathered the tiniest drop of altitude. Props in the dust, gimbal twitching, and me, pilot of the year, blinking at the monitor. I mean, my input on the stick was so bad that the shot looks like I augured the thing into the ground on purpose. But lesson learned, at those speeds, a tiny adjustment isn't tiny at all. In the soft, amber light of a spring morning at Casaluna one day, the hills looked Irish green, and I decided the drone needed a hero shot to match. The idea was simple. Start the move inches above the grass, and reverse past the rear tire of the FJ so that the knobby tread just explodes into frame from the left, and then just keep sliding the drone backward as the land drops away into the valley. I lined it up, props whispering over the dew. I eased the stick back, and the shot felt money. And, like an idiot, the world on the monitor flipped on its head, because rather than fly past it, I'd managed to fly straight into it instead. Rotor tips sheared, drone twitching like it needed CPR, and the FJ just sat there unfazed, judging me in perfect silence. Of course, I kept trying, and eventually I nailed the take, but the lesson was clear. It's not usually the battery I'm running out of on these sorts of things. It's talent. There are others, but I'm not going to make you watch every single one of them. Just know that flying up here is not as easy as it looks. I did save the best for last, though. Unfortunately, I don't have any actual images of this disaster, but I thought you guys might get a laugh out of the story anyway. During episode 4, I had wrapped the flight session, feeling satisfied shooting some really cool footage with a misty Coyote Lake in the background. I landed the drone on my hand and walked back to the car, where I set it on the hood of the FJ as I normally do, and then started packing up the cases. After that, I headed down the mountain. About halfway home, I glanced at the open Pelican on the seat next to me, and I froze. Controller? Yeah. Batteries? Yeah. Drone? Nowhere. I pulled over and stripped the truck like airport security. Nothing. Turned around, crawled slowly back up to Casaluna, and walked the grass for about another 30 minutes. Still nothing. Totally baffled, I idled back down the road at 5 miles an hour, and that's when I saw it. A dusty, drone-shaped fossil blending into the gravel of the road. I got out of the car and grabbed it, but immediately noticed something horribly wrong. I had unwittingly smashed the poor thing under those huge FJ tires on the way back up. Flattened like a bad piñata. SD card intact. Ego smashed, but recyclable. If the props stay on and the budget holds, we'll see you in episode 19, where we're finally going to get that submersible pump into the well, and I'm going to reveal the big developments that have been on the horizon. It's super exciting, so don't miss it. If you like this content, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel, because it really does help us. I can't believe how many subscribers we have already. We're almost to 5,000. It's crazy. But at least for now, this is Building the Moon House, and I'll catch you later.